Last time we left our little Setanta, he has gained a new name, Cu Chulainn, and was ready to leave his mark on the world. And soon he would get that chance. Queen Maeve of Connacht started an invasion of Ulster to steal Don Cuileg. What was Don Cuileg, you ask? Well, I'm glad, my friend, that you have a curiosity for these kind of things. You see, Don Cuileg was an extremely fertile stud bull. Why are you giving me weird looks? This thing back in the day, it was like oil in modern era. Anyways, Queen Maeve kickstarts the cattle raid of Cooley with an intention to steal Don Cuileg. The Ulstermen are taken by surprise because, well, it was the job of our little Setanta, Cu Chulainn, to guard the border. But well, he was a bit busy with a very beautiful woman, by the way. While he should have been watching the border. Anyways, with the surprise invasion underway, men of Ulster try to assemble to fight it off. But a curse makes them all experience labor pains at the same time. Hence, they are all put out of commission. Now it's all up to our hero Cu Chulainn to stop the invasion. He steps in front of the incoming army and challenges all of them to a single combat. I know, what a power move. And his challenge has to be respected because invoking the right to a single combat was a big deal in that honor-based society. He defeats champions after champions in a standoff which lasts for months and months, and he just keeps winning. He wins battle after battle, but every fight would leave him a little bit more scarred, a little bit more wounded. And after one particular battle, he was severely wounded and he was teetering on the edge of death when he was suddenly visited by Liu. It's the same Liu who was the grandson of Fuzzy Firewall of Destruction, Baelor. Liu reveals to Cu about his lineage and have a father-son moment while healing his injuries. But during the time he was knocked out, a troop of boys from Ulster had tried to take down the Connacht army and were wiped out, slaughtered to the last man. And this made Cu lose his mind. His rage consumed him and he underwent through his famous Raistrad type of battle frenzy or berserker rage. This Raistrad made him into a monster and he lost himself to the battle frenzy. He attacks the army and kills hundreds, building a wall of corpses. Seeing his unrelenting assault on her army, Queen Maeve sends Cu's foster father, Fergus MacRoy, to face him. Not wanting to fight against the man who has raised him, Cu Chulainn agrees to yield, but by that time, Ulstermen had recovered and joined the fight, forcing the Connacht's army to retreat. And thus ended the cattle raid of Cooley, with Cu single-handedly stopping the invasion and stalling it long enough for his fellow Ulstermen to overcome the curse and join the fray. But now, there was another problem, a problem much bigger than the invasion itself, and that problem's name was Cu Chulainn. Well, more like his charm and beauty. You see, it is said that during his teens, Cu was so beautiful, handsome and charming that the Ulstermen were dead worried that without a wife of his own, he will steal their wives and ruin their daughters. And so began the search for a suitable wife for our demigod all over the Ireland. But Cu already had a maiden in his mind. He would have none other than Emer, daughter of Forgal Monarch. Father of Emer had some other ideas. He didn't want his daughter to marry to this barbarian, so he came up with a plan. He suggests that Cu Chulainn should train under the renowned warrior woman Scathach in the land of Alba if he wished to gain his daughter's hand in marriage, while secretly hoping that such an ordeal would be too much for our Cu and he would end up dying. Thus, her precious and beautiful daughter would not need to get married to this brute. Cu Chulainn accepts his proposal and sets out on a journey to Alba, present-day Scotland, where he finds the legendary warrior and asks her to take him as her pupil. Impressed by his boldness, Scathach takes him under her wing and teaches our Cu several feats of arms and also gives him the deadly spear, the Gay Bulg. Gay Bulg, which means spear of mortal pain or death, was a terrible barbed spear thrown with the foot. The spear was said to be made from the bone of a sea monster, the Curid, who died while fighting another sea monster, the Cu Chulainn. It is said that this terrible spear would enter a man's body with a single wound just like a javelin, but then opens into 30 barbs. The only way to remove the spear from its victim's body was by cutting away the flesh. Cu Chulainn's training was going great when out of nowhere, Scathach's rival and in some story, her twin sister Maeve decides to challenge Cu's master to a duel. But before Scathach can accept the duel, Cu Chulainn jumps in front of his master and proclaims that he will fight Maeve in her stead. And so began their single combat, and the two are evenly matched, with their battle going for hours and hours. Sensing that they both are equally powerful and realizing that there is no way out of the battle, Cu decides to resort to trickery. You see, for Maeve, nothing mattered more than her horse and her chariot, and this is what Cu uses to his advantage. He distracts her opponent by calling out that Maeve's horses and chariot have fallen off a cliff. And it works. It distracts Maeve momentarily, and Cu uses this opportunity and seizes her. Now in his grasp and with his sword at her throat, Maeve understands that the battle was over, and she lays down her weapon. At this point, Cu Chulainn offers her a choice. He would spare her life, but she would have to agree to two of his terms. Firstly, she would call off her enmity with Scathach, and secondly, she would bear him a son. What? Huh? Man, why can't all the legends and myth be as cute as the Lithuanian ones? With that little ordeal over, Cu completes his training under Scathach and returns to Ulster to claim his wife. But his soon-to-be father-in-law still refuses to let him marry his promised bride, Emer. This angers Cu so much he storms Forgal's fortress, killing 24 of his men and abducts Emer and steals his treasure. And this little adventure also results in pacification of his soon-to-be father-in-law by making him his late father-in-law, as he dies because of falling from the ramparts of his castle. Now happily married, Cu's life was going great and everything was good, but then suddenly a warrior comes to the Ulster. The man was big and strong, and Cu felt that the warrior might be an intruder. He challenges him to a duel. Their fight was legendary, with both warriors coming very close to subduing each other. In the end, Cu Chulainn is the one who comes out on the top and ends up killing the intruder by using his legendary spear Bolg. As the warrior was on his deathbed, he reveals something which shattered Cu Chulainn's world. He finally reveals that he was his son Nala from the Maeve, the warrior woman whom he had fought back in Scotland. The reason why he had refused to identify himself is because when Nala was leaving her mother to look for Cu, Maeve had made him promise that he would never reveal his identity to anyone. Cu Chulainn wasn't just strong, he was also honorable. Once the trickster, Birikriu, hosted a feast and proclaimed that he needs a champion for it. He incites Cu Chulainn, Conall Carnach, and this dude to compete for the spot of champion. They participate in a whole bunch of tests. They try running, Cu wins. They try throwing boulders, Cu again wins. But no matter what they compete in, the other two would not accept the result. Thus they remain at the impasse. Cu McIr of Munster comes up with a crazy solution. He visits each one of them in disguise of a hideous girl and challenges them to behead him, then allowing him in return. Both Conall and Leger behead him, but when he regrows his head back and comes back for him, they both run away. At last, he goes to Cu Chulainn and challenges him, which Cu accepts and proceeds to whack off his head in one clean sweep. But when the beggar gets back up with his head restored, Cu bravely submits himself to the beggar's axe. At this point, Cu McIr reveals himself and declares Cu Chulainn as the champion. Cu has lived his life, he has achieved a lot, but he has also made a lot of enemies, and this would come back to bite him when Queen Maeve would conspire with his enemies to kill him. She comes up with a very convoluted plan to do that. First, she needs to make sure that he is not at his full power. For that, she conspires with the crone to set up a hut just before the battlefield from the direction Cu Chulainn would be arriving. Now, there were some rules of Ireland that were taboos or geisha, and you must never break them. One of them was that you must never refuse reality. So when he decides to rest at the crone's hut, she offers him dog meat, which was another strong taboo. Unable to deny the hospitality, he consumes the meat and thus gets significantly weaker just before the climactic battle. When the battle starts, Cu fights valiantly against his enemies, but the numbers overwhelm him to the point where the situation has become untenable. And then finally, a magic spear thrown by Lugard mortally wounds him. Refusing to fall on the ground, Cu Chulainn ties himself to a standing stone to die on his feet facing his enemies. Due to his ferocity and aura, none of his enemies dare to approach him, and it is only when a raven lands on his shoulder that his enemies realize that the mighty Cu Chulainn was dead. Thank you guys for watching the videos. Make sure to like, share and subscribe. I also stream on Twitch, so you can also follow me over there. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next video.